Harry Stark, do dogs and bunnies go to heaven? I think some do. I'm happy with the whole concept of dogs and bunnies going to heaven. I think it's a matter of some going to heaven. I don't think it's necessarily all of them, or at least their equivalent of heaven. We have to be cognizant that there might be a special place for them. I've taken sort of the view that what happens is when an animal is raised by human beings, it takes on certain characteristics. Like, for example, it can know when it's doing right or wrong. You know, when our bunny sneaks up on the couch, she's not supposed to be on the couch. And we look at her and she knows. She stops. As soon as she sees me looking at her, she knows she's not supposed to be there. And then she'll sort of creep back. She knows she's being naughty. Well, if they can make that that moral judgment that they're doing what they're not supposed to be doing, then there is moral agency. And if there's moral agency, there's something there worth preserving. Maybe not the same moral agency that humans have, but moral agency nonetheless. That attribute that's worthy of preservation would then perhaps persist into the afterlife. So I think that's a pretty good basis for saying that animals do go to heaven. BC says, I agree. I think most animals lack individuality until they've been in a relationship with humans and they express as individuals. And I think that's really important. We do develop as community. Human beings develop as community. Animals, when they're part of our community, will also develop. And there's also, my producer also brings up a valid point here too, is we're not going to be staying in heaven forever. We're going to end up on the new earth. Well, animals will be on the new earth too. So, new earth isn't just for us. Alexis, that's good insight for the case of animals in heaven, actually. Jonathan Walker says, I think God would allow animals in heaven. Why just let us humans in heaven and not other forms of life? I think one of the problems here is we have a very small concept of heaven. Very small concept of heaven. And I think that's one of the problems I think we have is we sort of think, well, we got this small concept of earth now. Oh, heaven must be smaller than earth, right? It's just God's throne room, right? No, it's vast. Heaven is vast. It's huge. It's full of spirit critters. Okay? We are going to be one spirit critter among them. Our conception of God is very small. It's very small. Our conception of heaven is equally small. The idea that everything is so exclusive in heaven, that and some of this comes out of bad theology. Some of this is just comes out of the poverty of the human imagination. When we talk about heaven, we're talking about something incredibly vast. We're not talking about a world or a small throne room. We're talking about a vast domain. Vast domain that includes conceptually hundreds of thousands of locations, full of spirit critters. We're going to be spirit critters among them. Some animals will be, at least some animals will be spirit critters among them. Very, very vast, this thing called heaven. So, I think we often get too parochial, too narrow. Our idea of God's too small. Our idea of heaven is too small. Jonathan Walker says, I've heard people say no for animals because we have souls and they don't. Well, that doesn't mean that they're unpreserved. You know, even if they don't have a soul, they have a spirit. Who is to say that we don't? We might just be a different form of spirit. Andy Gone Wild, why would animals not have souls? Well, this also begs the question, too, demands the question of why can't animals emerge having souls? That's another thing. You know, it's possible that the soul is an emergent trait. Very likely that it's an emergent trait of some kind. That people and animals emerge, and in the case of people, we emerge with them automatically. It's part of our nature to emerge with them. But I also think, too, that in the case of animals, if ones that are in relationship with mankind, they could have that emergent property also, especially given the moral reasoning argument. So if they have moral reasoning, then the soul is emergent. And if it's emergent, that's something that can be preserved.